Welcome to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County and our monthly Consumer Issues program. I'm Carol Fisher, Cornell Cooperative Extension educator here in Tompkins County. Our topic today is the world of insurances, which is a big topic because there's so many different kinds of insurances out there nowadays. But whatever kind of insurance we're in the market for, there are many common questions and issues that we need to think about to make a wise choice. We don't want to find out too late that we have the wrong kind of protection or not enough protection when we really need it. So today, Mike Danaher, New York State Assistant Attorney General, is here with us to share his expertise on the topic, to explore the questions that we need to ask ourselves, and to find out what we can do, where we can turn for help if we need it. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you out here. For those of you watching in TV land, by the time you're watching this, it's probably beautiful outside and sunny and springtime, and we're in the throes of our last winter storm, we hope. So hopefully you'll all have a great spring. Hopefully we'll have spring one of these days. But as Carol mentioned, today our topic is insurance, and a lot of people get very confused about insurance, and they don't know what to do, and sometimes when we get in those situations we tend to freeze and immobilize ourselves and say, I just won't do anything. And that's probably not a good idea to begin with. We're always here at Cornell Cooperative Extension challenging people to be good consumers, and they not only will have consumer rights, but they also have responsibilities, and we need to be responsible, good consumers when it comes to all consumer-related topics, including insurance. And with insurance, it's no less important to be a good consumer, although we may get a little bit confused by what's out there. We really need to understand what it is that we're getting ourselves into and how much we're going to end up paying and whether or not it is going to do for us what we hope to have it do. Most of us, including me, is not an expert when it comes to all the different insurance products out there. All we do know, though, is that in most instances, if we want to protect ourselves with an insurance product, there's always a product out there for us. Now, the big question is whether we're willing to pay the price that might be associated with that particular coverage. In health insurance, if you want the greatest plan with the low deductibles and low co-pays and stuff like that, you can probably get it. It will cost an absolute fortune, but you can probably get it. So it's just a question of figuring out what it is that we, if we're good in consumers, we are going to be, what do we need? And measure that against what do we want? And not have somebody else dictate that to us. We want to be proactive and make those decisions on our own freely and voluntarily. Insurance, unlike a lot of other things, insurance is usually something that we need before we want it. In other words, we can't look ahead and say, okay, in most instances with insurance, I want this coverage and I want to pay lots of money for it. Usually it's when something happens, we say, whew, boy, am I glad I have it. So it's usually one of those things that we need before we actually want it. And other consumer products, think about it. When there's other consumer products, it's usually something that we want before we actually need it. Do you really need that new computer out there that you really, really want to get, or that new car with all the bells and whistles on it? Maybe not, but we really, really want it. And we have something there tangible that we can say, look at my new car in my driveway. How many people pull out their insurance policies and say, hey, look at this new insurance policy that I just got. It's great. I may never need it. I may never have to use it, but look at how pretty it is. We don't usually do that. So other consumer products such as cars, houses, computers, those sorts of things, we actually think about, and that new TV, we think about that we really want that, and we go out and get it. Once we have it, we have something physical to hold on to or look at. With an insurance policy, it's different. But boy, when we need it and we have it, it is a great thing to have. Example I can use is I have used my collision on my auto policies 3 times in the last year. My kids have gotten hit or hit someone or something, and when I saw the bill for the cost of having the cars repaired, I've probably had $10,000 in auto repairs in the last year. And thank goodness that I have an insurance policy that takes care of all that stuff with towing and all that stuff, to where it's cost me significantly less. Now, when I'm paying those premiums every year, and for all those years I paid those premiums and never had a claim, I'm going, oh man, I got to pay this. Man, oh my gosh. But boy, when that policy had to be used, it was really nice to have it there. So insurance is a little bit different. None of us wants to spend the money for it. It's not anything that we can really grab a hold and see. It's not something that we say that we like having this, much like some other consumer products, and we're glad that we have it. And as a result, when you think about that dichotomy of other consumer products compared to insurance policies, we sometimes don't spend enough time looking into what products are available, what options are available, than we might look at when we're going to purchase our next car. We're on the internet with a car and seeing where there's available and what the prices are, because we want to know, we want to be a good consumer, and we do a consumer program here at Cornell Cooperative Extension on automobiles and car repairs and those sorts of things. And we're always looking to get the best deal, and where can we have these options. A lot of people aren't doing that when it comes to their different insurance products. So we want to be a good consumer, just like we're purchasing a car. We want to be a good consumer when we're purchasing insurance products. What is insurance? The first thing we have to do is understand, what is an insurance product? What is insurance? Well, insurance is a product designed to protect us in the event of a financial loss. That's simply what it is. Insurance. The root of insurance is insure. And insure, by definition, is to make certain, especially by taking necessary measures and precautions. That's what an insurance policy is. Some would have you believe that insurance products are an investment. It is not an investment. There are products available that if you buy the insurance, that maybe there'd be some accumulation of premium over a period of time. But don't let anyone try and sell you on the fact that insurance is an investment. It is not. Your main purpose for insurance is to cover, it's a contract. It's a contract between you and the insurance company, where the insurance company agrees to cover you and undertakes to indemnify you, guarantee or protect you financially. Classic example is your home or your automobile policy. Part of your automobile policy, sure, there's collision aspects to it, and the collision portion of the policy deals with if you wreck your car and you can get it repaired. But there's also liability coverage, where it's mandatory in our automobile coverage that we have a minimum of liability coverage. And liability means if you hurt or damage someone, that you will have to pay for it. And the liability portion of your policy protects you against financial loss up to the limits of the policy, should you have hurt someone or cause some damage. So you have to understand that it is protection. And it is not an investment. There was a vehicle that was being used, I use it as a product that is out there for insurance. that was being sold years ago that was being sold really as an investment. And it was these things for life insurance, because vanishing premium life insurance policies. Well, we'll take your premium and we'll invest it, and with no claims that's going to be invested, and at certain percentages that it's going to generate enough money that the premium vanishes. And people were buying. I bought one. I knew what was happening with it, so I was an informed consumer, so I knew what the deal was. But people were buying them, and they say, okay, based on this scenario with the investments and the whole thing, that after 10 years, your premium will vanish. You will not have to pay. Well, here's what happened. They were saying, pay us your premiums each month or twice a year or once a year, and we invest those. And based on a 10% return, the number of payments that you've made and have accumulated over that period of time will then, based on this investment scheme, will generate enough that it covers the investment is as much as what your premium is. And we'll just use your premium, or your investment, as your premium. You won't have to pay it anymore. And about 10 years later, we would receive all these complaints now from people who are still getting a notice from their insurance company that they have to pay the premium. They say, I was told after 10 years I didn't have to pay. And then we'd send the complaint out to the insurance company, and the insurance company would reply, oh, no, that's not what you were told. Well, what was I told? What we were told was that the premiums that you paid would generating a certain return would have the premium vanish. Well, they didn't generate the returns that we thought. And so consequently, you still owe on the policy. But what the consumer heard, this is part of the understand what's going on and having a knowledge of what the two parties to the transaction are thinking. Put yourself in the scenario of the fly on the wall. You're the fly on the wall watching this whole transaction go down. The salesperson was saying, based on this return, they always have diagrams that show you, spreadsheets that show you the investment. They were saying to you, if your policy, your premiums, generate a 10% return, you will accumulate over a period of time such amounts. What was the consumer? You're the fly. What's the consumer thinking and hearing? The consumer is hearing, I don't have to pay premiums after 10 years. And so there's, in essence, the miscommunication between the two. If you're going in to buy life insurance or any other insurance product, don't buy it for investment returns. That's not what you're there for. So don't let somebody tell you that's what you're there for. What you're there for is to protect your life, protect your family if something should happen to you, and how much will be available to pay in the event of a catastrophic event. So that's just one example of it is not an investment product. If you want to generate income as an investment, go do an investment somewhere. Stocks, mutual funds, bonds, however they do it. But don't use an insurance product for that purpose. There are many, many different insurance products out there. There are many things out there that are actually insurance products that you don't necessarily realize is an insurance product, some of which we'll talk about. One of the classic insurance products is automobile insurance. It protects our property and ourselves from having to pay out in the event of injury or damage. Now, there are many different kinds, cover many different aspects, so you have to be careful to understand exactly what it is that you're buying. Every automobile policy in New York, every person that owns an automobile policy in New York must have insurance, a minimum amount of insurance. it used to be, correct me, it was 10-20 policies, meaning you had to have liability coverage in case you injure someone at no less than $10,000 for one person that's injured in the accident, and a maximum of $20,000 for all people injured in the accident. So if there are 3 people injured in the accident, your coverage was $20,000, but only one person could get up to $10,000. That is woefully inadequate. And understand that although you have, hey, I've got insurance, I can have my car, I have insurance. You are only covered. You were only covered in that case when we had those. Of if somebody gets hurt, your insurance will step in for $10,000. Doesn't take much this day and age for somebody to be hurt for more than $10,000. So New York raised the limits. And what are those limits now? Last time I checked, because I don't keep minimum limits, it was $25.50. Woefully inadequate. $25,000 for one person injured in the accident, or $50 a total. Again, there are minimums required in New York. And why I stress this and why I'm not focused, maybe it's even changed since $25.50. You can check with an insurance agent. But the reason why I don't focus on that is because it really doesn't matter. You say, oh, that's a terrible thing for you to say, that it doesn't really matter. And what I mean by it doesn't really matter is what you need to cover you is based on your individual circumstances. So if a $25.50 is adequate protection for you and for your assets, then God love you. Get that coverage. But for others, if you need to protect assets well in excess of that, the minimums don't make any difference. You need the protection that's going to cover you in the event of an accident. So there is this thing called no-fault coverage. We're required to have no-fault insurance. And no-fault means is that you are covered no matter who's at fault. And it's in case of someone that's injured. It's actually to protect you in case you're injured by someone who is uninsured. And so you need to see what coverages are going to be available. What protection do you need if someone injures you that is uninsured? Under the no-fault realm, you can turn to your own insurance policy to get coverage for your injuries based on what policy coverage that you have. And in fact, if your coverage is better than the person who hit you, who is got the minimum coverage, then you can get coverage that will protect you up to your policy limits. There are serious consequences for not having insurance in driving an automobile. It's really important that you have those coverages at the very least minimum, but really every consumer needs to be a good consumer. Sit down and figure out what you need to protect you, and that is the policy that is for you. What can you afford in deductibles? Meaning you pay the first however much money, and then the insurance policy kicks in and covers the rest. I'll use my example. I've paid some significant deductibles lately just because of the damages to my cars, but I have a $500 deductible on my policy, so I have to pay the first $500. That's just the way that it is. You can get policies that it's a $250 deductible, but then the premium is significantly higher. So you have to choose what works best for you, and then choose accordingly. But every policy needs to have auto coverage, or every car needs to have auto coverage. Then another common one that we hear about is homeowners insurance. And again, it depends on the facts and circumstances for what coverage you would receive. How valuable is your home? How much do you need to cover? There's a liability portion associated with the home insurance coverage. So if somebody gets hurt on your property, you can have liability coverage so that your homeowner's coverage? Do you want to cover your contents within your home? Standard homeowner's insurance policy covers contents up to a certain amount, but maybe you have really valuable stuff that might not be covered. For example, you may have art or jewelry or something that might not be covered in its entirety. You can actually get attachments called riders to your homeowner's insurance policy to cover losses associated with those particular items. They're add-ons, they increase your premium, but then at least you're covered. I have a very good friend back at home who is done very well for himself. He's the president of an insurance company. And he was out of town, and his wife was out of town at one point in time, and his house burned to the ground. And when I say to the ground, there was nothing left. And he had stuff in it and all that. I mean, there was the chimney and the foundation, and that was left. And he had really good insurance coverage to protect him in the event of that and cover losses and things. I'll step aside and talk a little bit separate from insurance, but as far as just protecting, being a good consumer and protecting yourself, let's assume that you have paid that kind of money and you have a really good insurance policy covering all your contents and things. Your house burns to the ground. How are you going to establish everything that you owned? Here's a word of advice. In this day and age with cameras and cell phones and video recorders and things like that, go through your house and video everything that you have. Closets, cupboards, basements, attics. Doesn't take very long. And take the little micro tape that is in your camcorder and keep it at a separate place. So that when, God forbid, nothing happens, but if something should happen, you can pull out the tape and view all of the things that you had, the china, the silver, the artwork. You'll have a video of it that you can show to the insurance company for coverage. That's kind of separate from the that's kind of a double insurance policy. You got the insurance policy, but this is separate insurance for you, is to ensure that you cover everything. My former partner, when I was in private practice, actually had a terrible fire and a theft. And he used to always say, he was an older guy, and he used to say, Mike, I had video of everything down to the preparation H in the medicine cabinet. And he was able to make the claim because he had everything videoed. So as an aside, video everything to protect yourself so that you can see. So that, that's a homeowner. And get liability coverage in case somebody should get hurt on your property. And that covers you in the event of a loss. Now, one of the big things, one of the huge things that we're hearing about now is health insurance. The landscape has changed over the last couple of years. We had that whole big thing within the last year with the Affordable Health Care Act, or otherwise known as Obamacare, where people are kind of mandated to get their own insurance coverage, or there's going to be penalties. I haven't really investigated it too closely, but when I first started coming out and speaking at Cornell Cooperative Extension 16 short years ago, prior to that, I was in private practice. When I was in private practice, I was a partner in a law firm. We owned our own firm, and we had to pay our own insurance. And when I left private practice, and before I went with the Attorney General's office and became a state employee, I was paying my own insurance. I had a really good insurance plan, covered my family, go to the doctor that I wanted to go to, and it had a small copay. At that time was probably $5, and it was I could just go whenever I wanted to, and it was great. Covered for prescription drugs and those. My insurance policy, because I remember looking at the premium when I was paying for it myself, when I left, I thought was astronomically high at $4,500 a year. That same plan now is probably $20,000 a year. health insurance was very, very expensive. And consequently, a lot of people were not getting insured because they couldn't afford the premiums. And now we have the whole landscape changing with Affordable Care Act and people going on and signing up for their own insurance. What insurance is not better than the other? It's all based on what your needs are and what you need to have covered. So you need to go out and investigate what your different options are. In New York is one of the states that operates its own health insurance registry. There are a number of states that have adopted not to, and so those are being run by the federal government. You heard about the terrible website, and people can't get on, and hopefully a lot of that is corrected. There was a recent article in Time magazine about a lead article about the people that were brought in to help correct the problem. It's a real fascinating read if anybody wants to read it at some point in time. But New York has its own, and it's NY State of Health, one word, ny.gov. For those who are watching on TV, that some of the time periods have expired, but just for those of you that are here with us today, you can go on there, and for individual coverage, you have a couple of days yet that you can sign up for coverage beginning at the beginning of April. And for businesses out there acquiring business insurance health insurance for their employees, they have until the end of March to sign up to get coverage beginning May 1st. So those are just some of the time periods that people can sign up for. Depending on what coverage you get is how much you're covered for hospitals or doctor's bills. There's many different types of policies out there. There are low-income policies. You should investigate them all for our senior citizens. There are policies that you can get that there's Medicare, but then there's coverages that will assist you for the bills that aren't covered under Medicare. And then there are things that take you actually out of Medicare called Medicare Advantage plans. So you need to investigate all of those options. There's actually a coordinator in each county throughout New York State that can assist seniors in making the determination. They won't make the determination for you, but there are counselors available to help explain to you what your options are. And they're called high-cap counselors. And Lifelong here in Tompkins County is the high-cap coordinator counselor. And you can check with them about investigating when it comes time each year for the seniors to make their determination of what their coverages are going to be. It might behoove you to contact Lifelong to see if everything confuses you and you have no idea what you should do. And someone will sit down to you and not tell you what you need to do, but they will tell you these are the different options that you have, and then you can be the good consumer that we're encouraging here and make the best decision. There are other types of insurance out there, disability insurance, and again, it's just there to protect someone in case of a disability and a loss of income. There are different kinds of disability policies, and one kind typically you might get through your employer, or an independent salesperson, insurance person would be able to sell you so you can protect your income if you become disabled for any certain period of time. You may have a nest egg lined up so that you wouldn't need it to kick in for 30 days, so you can get a policy that doesn't start until after 30 days after the disability, and those sorts of things. Then there's other things that we see, and that is how many people go out and buy cars. And one of the things that's presented to them if they have to get a car loan is a disability policy. And if you become disabled, then you can get your car payment made for you. But you have to be very careful with those. They are different. Those are group disability, group credit policies, which are which kick in, but the only purpose of that particular policy is to make your car payment. So it doesn't make your other payments for you. It's just make your car payment. And there are limits on the amount of the policies in New York. And I don't know if they've been raised at all, but it used to be a $30,000 limit. And what ends up happening is if you buy a new car nowadays and you finance a significant portion of it, and you say, well, I'm going to get this group disability policy, there could be circumstances where you become disabled and the policy is not enough to cover the payment, all the payments on your car, and you're stuck. And what would normally happen is the way these policies work is they don't pay off the balance on your car loan. What they pay is your monthly payment. And the payment is made up of not only the principal amount you owe on the loan, but the interest on the loan. So if you buy a new car today, and new cars can be well in excess of $30,000, and you finance a good chunk of it, that you become disabled early on in the loan, the loan kicks in, makes your payments. And then you get down the road, and once it's made a total of $30,000 worth of payments, it stops. There's no more coverage because you max out. Well, you still owe on the loan. And all of a sudden it's then on you and you're disabled. So if that's the kind of policy that you want to get, fine. But make sure you know what the limits are and will it cover you entirely throughout to make sure that no matter if you become disabled on day 2 of your car payment or on day 50. The other thing that day 50 month. The other thing that you need to understand is that it only pays off what you owe. So what happens if you get a credit policy here and you're fine? You pay all those premiums all the way through, and you have 1 month to go on your loan and you become disabled. What is the obligation of the insurance company? To make the last monthly payment. That's it. So there's nothing stored up. So one of your other alternatives might be to go out to an insurance agent and say, I need some disability insurance because I've got a car loan and I want a disability policy for $50,000, or I want a disability policy that will pay me X number of dollars a month for the whole time I'm disabled. And then you can use that money to pay off the loan. Yet you're still maybe getting disability payments later on because it has no correlation to how much is owed on the car or what. Maybe a little bit more expensive than the other group credit policy, but again, it depends on your facts and circumstances of what you really need. So be a good consumer when it comes to that. There's another insurance product called long-term care insurance, which means if you have to go into a nursing home for long-term care, you will be covered for the cost of that care. Nursing home care is very expensive. A long-term care insurance policy is not cheap either, especially as you get older. But it protects your assets. So if you've accumulated some significant wealth and you go into a nursing home and you don't have insurance, before you will qualify for Medicaid, which is the low-income insurance coverage, before you will qualify to have Medicaid pay your nursing home, you have to spend down your assets that you have until you reach the minimum threshold, which is very, very small, of what you're able to have before Medicaid would end up kicking in. So there's an insurance policy there that will cover you for whatever you buy as far as long-term care, that insulates your assets because you're covered by your long-term care insurance. I'm not going to get caught up with discussing with you estate planning and that sort of thing, but there are ways that you want to you can design your estate to take into account the eventuality that maybe you do have to go into a nursing home or whatever. Like everything else, an estate plan is very unique to every individual. And you need to sit down with somebody experienced in that area who can give you advice regarding that and regarding long-term care insurance, whether or not something it would be appropriate. Can you design it a certain way so that this can get taken care of? Again, an important topic. Then life insurance, another big topic area, and it protects you in case of loss of life. Now, if you're the one losing your life, what really doesn't matter that much. It's who you are coming after you. Do you have a family that needs to be supported? Maybe if you're younger, you need to have more life insurance coverage because you've got a family, that kids, they need to be taken care of, need to be educated, need to be on their way. If you're older, maybe you don't need as much because the kids are all out of the house, they're self-sufficient, they can take care of themselves, but maybe you have a spouse that you want to take care of the spouse. So you want to protect yourself. It depends, and I think it also depends on, as we age, what life circumstances we're under as to whether or not we need to adjust what coverages we have. And life insurance generally comes in two categories: term insurance and another one called whole life. Term insurance is exactly what it says. It's for a specific term. If you die within that term, the policy pays. And then you can get insurance for the next term. Well, a lot of times don't think about it because our term insurance is automatically renew. So we just pay the premium every year. But the important thing about a term insurance policy is that as we get older, the probability of us passing increases. So consequently, when you buy a term policy, you're paying the premium for that term. And if you're 20 years old, the probability of you passing away is very small, so the premium is small. But as you get older, the premium increases. To some extent, you get old enough where you, one, don't need it, and two, can't get it because nobody wants to insure your life because you're so old. But and then there's the spectrum all along the way. And the premium increases. Let's change our focus here to the other policy, which are whole life policies, which actually are policies that you obtain that actually have a steady premium throughout your life. So what that means is if you get a whole life policy early on as a youngster, knowing that the eventuality of your death is probably not until way, way down the line, the premium can be spread out over the whole life of the person, and they'll calculate it back, and they'll say, okay, there'll be a uniform premium for whatever, how many years. So you can get a policy that you know this is what my premium is, and it's not going to change. Those whole life policies were the ones that were being sold as the universal, the vanishing premium ones. They were whole life policies, thinking you're going to have it your whole life so that it would spread out. The whole life usually pays dividends because they know that you're not going to need it right away. So it gets invested and it pays premiums. And those premium, the income that's generated from your premiums that you paid can help to reduce, if you want, use it to reduce the premium you have to pay as you go on. I know that when I got involved in it, I knew the deal. I knew that there was a good chance my premium wasn't vanishing at any point in the future. So I've just paid the amount every year. And as it turns out, because I've continued to pay and haven't used the investment income to pay the premium, the face value of my policy is now significantly higher than what it was when I first bought it, because it adds to the face value of the policy. So that's an option out there. And that was not to get into the minutia of life insurance policies, but it was more to show you there are many different types out there that people need to investigate. They need to investigate the quality of the insurance company that's backing you, how much the premium is, when does it kick in. All those things need to be taken into account in making those decisions, but we need to do that now. I mean, nobody wants to think about it. how many people want to contemplate their death? Which is what you have to do when you're thinking about getting a life insurance policy. So nobody wants to think about it. And remember when I first started talking here that many times we get confused, we don't understand, and we end up freezing and end up doing nothing. These are the things, if we're good consumers, we have to think about so that we can make good, informed decisions. As you can see, there's many different products out there, and we do want to be good consumers. And the best thing we can do to be a good consumer is to determine what our needs are as far as coverages are concerned. When we can sit back objectively and say, okay, what are my needs going to be now and into the future? Then go to someone, insurance salesperson, and have them explain what our options are regarding those needs, and then shop around for the best options that are available for us. That's what's being a good consumer. Each decision is unique. What is good for one person is not necessarily good for another. And we have to be a good consumer when we make those choices. Make sure your decision is based on what is right for you. Don't be rushed into purchasing something just because somebody had a fancy-dancy spiel presented to you. Don't feel pressure. As soon as someone says you got to sign here today or you're not going to get this coverage right now, you may want to think twice about it. If you have any problems related to insurance, insurance companies are regulated in New York State. We now have the New York State Department of Financial Services that used to be the New York State Insurance Department and New York State Banking Department. Well, they've merged together. It's the New York State Department of Financial Services. You can contact them. You can also contact my office, the New York State Attorney General's office. For seniors, for your assistance, you can contact your office for aging. Every county has an office for aging, as well as lifelong. If seniors, you might be on Medicare. If you want something supplemental to your Medicare policy, make sure that supplemental insurance is different than a Medicare Advantage plan. Make sure someone can explain those things to you. If you have any questions related to insurance topics, I'd be glad to answer them for you. Otherwise, thank you for coming. And I'll hand it back to Carol.
Oh, thank you, Mike, for helping us explore the complexities of the world of insurance. And I hope that this presentation has helped you understand and be a little bit more confident as far as what kind of questions you need to ask and what the issues are. Here in Tompkins County, in addition to the HICAP counseling at Lifelong, you can also make an appointment to see a navigator, a health insurance navigator, by calling 211. They can help you make an appointment to have somebody help you sign up for a health insurance plan. Or you can go to that website that Mike already mentioned, which is nystateofhealth.ny.gov. If you'd like any more information about any other topic related to consumer issues, please call our consumer helpline here at Cornell Cooperative Extension. Our number is 272-2292, and we have staff and volunteers here who are ready to help and assist consumers in providing information, research-based, unbiased information about a whole range of consumer issues. And thank you for being here today. Thank you to our viewing audience. We hope you will join us next time. Our programs here are free and open to the public. We are here at 615 Willow Avenue in Ithaca. They're held on the second Thursday of every month, and please join us if you can. Our next topic will be on home improvement scams next month, starting at 11 a.m., and we hope to see you then. Thank you for coming.